Welcome to the Performance Portfolio Podcast with Coop and Coop. Greg Cooper is the owner of Cooper Performance Coaching and lead instructor at Kodakwai Judo Club in Edmonton, Alberta. He is on the lifelong pursuit of helping others increase their performance. Cooper Allen is a top financial advisor from Barrie, Ontario, whose focus is empowering everyday families with advice, leadership, and tools that we should have been given in school. Together, they bridge the gap between performance and finance to help you create your own robust performance portfolio. With that, let's get into today's episode.
Coop, good to see you as always, my friend. I have a question for you. What is a high performer?
Coming hot right out of the gate with today's episode. It's such a broad question, and I know we're going to dive deeper on that, but I think that when it comes to world of high performance, I always go back to the quote, you get to live a life that others don't by doing work that others won't. And not for a period of time, not for a day, not for a moment, but consistently for a lifetime. And does that mean run unsustainably forever and work 80 hours a week? Not at all. But it's working hard for a period of time, and through that hard work, learning how to work smart and just establishing an identity that when the rest of society veers down one road, I'm going to do just a little bit extra, or just a little bit different to not follow the beaten path that leads back to the average. Because to me, high performance, I think the reason that a lot of people, in short, don't chase high performance is because they think it's some elitist, far-fetched, far-away thing. But the difference between high performer and average is a few small decisions consistently repeated over time. High performance to me effectively just means commitment to not being consistently mediocre, consistently average, consistently status quo. That might not be the Greg Cooper performance coaching definition, but those are some of my initial thoughts with you. Put me on the spot with that.
Yeah, I got to keep you on your toes sometimes. Yeah, I love your definition there. And I like the last piece in particular where you said, it's not the difference between a high performer and an average person isn't that far. And you're correct. But the difference is really stark in what they're doing in their daily lives. Because even in the sports world, now, before I give you my definition, yes, genetics matter. Yes, talent matters. But if you lack those two things, hard work can get you there too. We've seen high performers in every sport, in every area of the world that weren't genetically gifted, but they were going to outwork everybody. So I just like to put that out there. If you're sitting
On that
there,
note too, before you dive into your definition, is like talent is so subjective. Like obviously, yes, if you're trying to go pro in a specific sport, you'd need specific talents. But when we're talking about something more general like business, some people are just like, oh yeah, that person has a better business acumen than I do. That's not a talent. You weren't born with a business acumen. So like that statement kind of only applies to the sports
yeah.
world. Oh, this person's a better reader and writer than me. Yeah, they get a bit more education in that area. You can catch up on that. And do you even really need that in the world of AI? Anyways, and okay, maybe they're a bit more talented than you in this area. Get out of the victim mindset. Don't convince me that you also don't have a talent that I don't have. So yeah, I might be better than you at this, but if you looked deep enough, you're probably better than me at this over here. But the reason it hasn't balanced out yet is instead of you focusing on what your strength is, you're so focused on the strengths that you don't have that other people have, and use that to justify why you're not winning at the level you want to win at. Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, I'm gonna put one more thing into the talent side of this conversation, because how you define talent really matters on what talent means. To me, talent is something a person possesses that only them or very few others possess. And I'll make it broader and easier to understand. We'll use the NHL. Every NHL player, in my definition, is not talented. Connor McDavid, talented. Leon Draisaitl, talented. Sidney Crosby, talented. Uh, sorry,
Pretty
I'm
much
just thinking
it.
here. I'm trying to think. Oh, here's a good one. Um, Brad Marchand, very good hockey player. No disrespect to him. I'm a big Brad Marchand fan. He's got grit. He busts his butt. He's a great team guy. I wouldn't say talented. Gonna get a lot of hate for that, I'm sure. But
Yeah,
that's
but
just an
the
example.
players that are like him, the
Yeah,
Zach Hymans, the Matthew
right. He's
Knies,
there,
yeah,
but he isn't a generational talent as we use that term. Anyway, um, yeah. So on the high performance side in the sports world, if you're not the genetic guy, if you're not the at birth destined to do that thing guy, the talent guy, the difference between a high performer and somebody who's average is somebody who consistently shows up and consistently delivers above standard results with drive. They have a very strong mindset. They are goal oriented, they're focused, and they bring others up with them. Not necessarily always as a leader, but just their presence and the show of their ability inspires others to do that. You're doing those things, you are closer to becoming a high performer, or you're already a high performer. If you're not, if you had a couple days in your career that you had a big moment and it was awesome, you careered, you medaled at nationals, awesome, you're not a high performer. That was one day, you just had the day of your life. It's still cool and it is still impressive. But unless you could follow it up again and again and again, you just had yourself a day. Awesome. Nobody could take that away from you. High performer? Maybe not.
yeah. And it's the exact same in the business world as an entrepreneur. You make money 1 month and then people talk about it for 2 years.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
you're supposed to celebrate for a day, not the whole week. It's if you got to the end of this past month, you're saying, okay, it's January 31st, uh, and you've turned the leaf over on February 1st. Okay, awesome. If you had a great month, happy for you. Doesn't matter anymore. If you had a terrible month, you all your resolutions, all your goals went out the window. Doesn't matter. It's a reset. Does not happen. And there's an old story about Tiger Woods that I've always loved, where people talk about the separator with him as to why he was so great. Was less about golf, and obviously there's a lot of pieces related to golf about it. But it was the biggest difference between him and his competition was that by the time he got to his ball, he'd already forgot what happened on the previous shot. And that's why I love this topic, what you're talking about, Greg, because you wake up you're listening to this on a Thursday morning. Hey, if you had a terrible day yesterday or you had an amazing day yesterday, congratulations, it's over. Let's do it again today. Let's go
Mhm.
win the day.
Yeah, I talk to my athletes about that a lot, and all of them heard it this weekend. In sports and in life, we are not defined by a moment or, in the case of judo, a fight. If everybody's lives or careers in their sport or their job were defined by one moment, everybody would be the worst at whatever they do. Everybody would suck. So instead of just absolutely losing our heads when something goes wrong or we make that mistake, we lose that fight, it's damn it, I lost. That is frustrating. Take your time, being a few minutes to process that. And then go, okay, I made mistake here. I wasn't engaged, made the mistake, that's why I got caught. Well, made the wrong investment, followed the wrong numbers, lost a bunch of money. Okay, we could follow the numbers, whatever that case is. But dwell on that for a small while and then move on. And then when you go into the next fight or the next meeting, whatever you're doing, refocus. The ones that can refocus, those again, now that is a trait of a high performer to not dwell on the past. Much to your point about Tiger Woods. And the impressive thing to me is I see this in younger and younger individuals in sports. When I was that age, I was a basket case. I was a head case. I lost a fight. I thought I was going to quit judo. Man, I would get mad. If I had the ability to go, okay, coach, what did I do wrong? How do I need to fix that? I have 30 minutes before my next fight. Please.
Yeah,
But
it's
that
so
is,
interesting. It's like where in society do we beat that out of people? Because you think from the time kids are learning to talk and learning to walk, like they don't say a wrong word as they're learning to talk and then beat themselves up and never talk again because of it. Or they fall over as they're crawling or walking and they just stop walking. So from a young age, it's always like, okay, fall, got back up, fall, got back up, fall, got back up, tried to talk, nobody understood me, tried again, tried again, tried again. And they kept going. And you mentioned the same thing with the kids. It's okay, they lost. They might cry, they might pout, they might do whatever, but then they bounce back. Okay, what can I do better? And then all of a sudden we grow up and we turn into adults and there's just no critical thinking or reflection. It's just day to day, 9 to 5. Don't think about if they're thinking about, yeah, it's either don't think about yesterday or think about it to get anxious and beat yourself up instead of just using it as data points to figure out how to get better. Like how does that happen? Is that the school system? Is that the media? Is that like a science thing? I don't know. Like why do people go from just so willing to grow and learn to not you get older and supposedly wiser and you end up not being reflective and not learning at all.
I think about this often. And I believe that it's, nature or nurture, right? In this case, this is a nurture issue. It is the school system. It is your parents. It is the people you surround yourself with. Because the people that, when they were young, were ambitious, played sports, whatever, even if they didn't play sports, had ambitions, had goals that were larger than those of the people they surround themselves with, including their parents, they were told, that's crazy. Maybe you should do the safe thing and go get a college degree or a university degree. No, no, no. You're gonna get married in a couple years and have kids. You have to be there for them. You can't be taking this crazy risk. That's a pipe dream, Cooper. That's a pipe dream. So for years and years, they were told this stuff. When they were kids, when they were babies, nobody told them anything was impossible. So they just tried it until the mom comes up. Oh, no, 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 no. I see it often. And those are the ones that become mediocre infinitely faster than the ones that are in environments that push creativity, that allow risk, that allow their kids to get hurt, that allow bumps and bruises to happen, that don't baby them, that give the environment that is conducive to a high performer. And that is a little bit of freedom. And it is on my end, the difference I make, this new generation of athletes we're seeing. So let's say, you know, 12 to 18 year olds. It goes along that, but that's the scope I'm looking at for this example. Is insane. They are fitter, they are stronger, they are smarter, and they have more resources than ever available to go further than they even thought possible. Their goals are large too. But then you look at their counterparts, their friends that aren't in a sport or aren't focused on competing in a sport, and they are tremendously average, which is okay. It's not a bad thing per se, but they'll never understand what a high performance is because they've been told their whole lives or they've only seen mediocre their whole lives. So for them, that's okay. And that is the big difference. And that's why at the start of the conversation, you said, the difference between a high performer and somebody who's, average isn't that far. And it's not. But now the contrast is so stark because how they think, how they do, how they act, and who they're with in the high performance world is not even a black and white difference. We're talking different genres. This is action movies. This is no speak movies from the 1950s. That's how different it is now because of this bubble nurturing that has happened in society.
I've got a couple thoughts on that. The first one I'll say a little bit unrelated to what you said, but I want to get the point out there for the listeners, and then I'll come back with a question for you related to what you just said. The first point is there's so many parents out here that are going to hear this message and go, "Well, Greg, you just don't get it. You don't have kids." And I know that to be true because when I used to say stuff like that before having kids, that's the same thing people said to me. Yeah, you just don't get it. You know what? Here's what I've realized since having kids the last few years is the people who used to say that to me and the people who will say that to Greg when he says stuff like that are really just the people that are making excuses. You take 10 or 20% of advice as it relates to parenting that come from people without kids. Is 20% of that advice pretty illegitimate? For sure. Was there 20% of my thoughts about parenting that completely went out the window as soon as I had the kids? Hey, they're not going to do this, they're not going to do that, and they're not going to do that. Yeah, I was naive in thinking that for sure. But 80% of the principles still apply and are still doable with a little bit of planning, a little bit of focus, and actually caring about your next generation and not being lazy. So I just wanted to throw that out there quickly because you can't immediately discredit someone. You got to look at the information and go, is the information actually true? So it doesn't matter whether Greg's got kids or whether Greg doesn't have kids. It's, can I actually take what he's saying and implement it into my life or not? What would it look like for me? And because most people don't reflect on their day and reflect on their week and budget their 168 hours in a week the same way they budget their money, it's if you can't tell me where your time is going because you don't have an audit of your time, you no longer have the right to say that you're busy. If you can't tell me where your money's going, you no longer have a right to say that you're broke. Track both of those things. If you can track your money and you can show me why you're broke, if you can track your time and show me why you're busy, then that's data. That's not a feeling. So you're 100% able to do that. But that's a kind of a side rant that I knew as soon as you were saying that there was going to be some triggered Karen that was like, but you don't get it, Gregory, because you have no kids. So how could you possibly know what we go through? It's like, yeah, I don't know what you go through, but I know that you're average and that you should change if you care about your
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah, and quickly before you go on to your next points, the nice thing is, again, create the environment that you want to be in. Of all of the parents that I coach their kids, I never get that objection when I say or do certain things or impose some ideas on their kids because I have hundreds of kids that are my students from ages 6 to, if we're just talking kids, 6 all the way to 21, right? And then above. I know how they act. I know how they think. I don't have to go home with them and tuck them into bed. That's the only difference. But when they're on the mats with me, I can see. I see the hierarchies they build. I see who is very confident, who's not. I can see where they excel and where they need to be pushed. So it, and you could quickly tell from how a kid reacts on what their environment is likely like. So anyway, I
So that's
luckily
my
in my world I don't get that objection lots, but to the Karen that's gonna yell at us online, sorry, I said what I said.
I love it. It leads really well into what my actual question was that I wrote down was you mentioned the difference between the two types of kids, one being way more average than maybe a previous generation of kids, and one being way more performer and kind of seeing more of a stark contrast compared to a generation or two ago. Do you think that has something to do with parents being around a lot more, but actually not being present?
That is a fantastic question, man. Uh, I think that's a difficult one to say. Because it is so vastly different. which parent is around more? And what sport are we talking about? And what gender are we talking about? If, and this is not a knock. I'm going to actually preface this, unlike the last one, because I can also see, and it's just through experience, which kids potentially come from a divorced home. And then the facts come out right away, or single moms, single dads. I can see in how a child athlete acts, and then that is the outcome. So, male athlete, single mother, often they are the hardest worker because they're the man of the house. And we've seen this in sports lots and lots and lots. And they're forced into this role of, stepping up and doing that thing. On the other side, that same situation can create a very coddled individual because they don't have, that uncle or a male coach. When they lack that male figure in their life, no matter where they are, family, friends, coach, otherwise, that piece missing, even if the mom is always there, can be very detrimental just to growth and just to development as a young man. With young females, split homes or single parents, we could see a little bit more anger and a little less control because there isn't that balance that's needed. And why I bring up these extreme examples is because in general, the mom is there to be empathetic, to pick you up, pat you on the back. The father is there to tell you, if you get scraped knee, get up, keep going, you're fine. The father usually pushes, the mother usually hugs. And that is, it's in the animal kingdom, it's in the world. That's just how it is. When you're missing one of those pieces, and you can't replace it with an uncle, like I said, or a family friend, or a coach, whoever is going to fill that missing void, it creates imbalances, and that's where we see, yes, the parent or parents are around all the time, and then it creates an environment where creativity can't happen. There's always that feeling of being watched. You can't be a kid. You can't do stupid things and make mistakes. You can't push yourself and just go for a 5 kilometer run because you're so instilled to do so. But because your parents are always around, they're going to go, whoa, 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 it's dangerous. It's dark outside. Sure, if you live in a bad part downtown somewhere, maybe not smart. But if you live in the suburbs, right? This is the actions that kids need to do. They need to play. They need to challenge themselves. But if there's always parents there holding their hand, making sure everything's safe, not going to happen. If there's a missing parent for whatever reason, and there's an imbalance at home, that also creates a good environment for failure to become a high performer.
Yeah. I think of people who aren't athletes. I think of these kids that, first of all, I look at my life growing up and I go, man, if there was an absence of sport, I don't know what I would have done with all of my time. Secondly, in all of that time, I certainly don't know what I would have done if mom and dad were home more frequently because maybe they had more kind of flexibility to work from home or some part-time hours here, flex time or whatever, which exists. People are working. I find people need to work more right now to keep up with what's going on in the economy, double income household, sometimes even triple income household. Uh, but it's also more flexible. So you're working more hours maybe than previous generation, but you have more hours at home with your family if you do want to be at home to get that stuff done. The problem is in those hours, whether you like it or not, whether you realize it or not, you're not spending any more time with your family than you did in previous generations. You're just kind of checking the boxes off of things that need to get done around the home. And then you're sitting there going like this on your phone. And now your kid's at home, bored because they're not in sports, not getting physical exercise. And then they're inside going, well, I guess if I'm not going to do this, then maybe, I don't know, do I bug my parents? Do I play with them? Do I do something do I act out so that I can get their attention? And, well, why is little Timmy acting out? Well, because little Timmy's trying to get your attention because you've been sitting on the couch or standing at the kitchen sink scrolling your phone for the last hour. Oh no, it hasn't been an hour. Oh, it's I just do it. I just check my phone quickly. I just do it 30 seconds at a time. Yeah, but that in your mind it's 30 seconds and it's actually 5 minutes. And then two people have come by you and tried to talk to you, and you were so dialed in your phone that you missed completely what they said. You didn't even realize that the garbage truck came by or the Amazon delivery guy dropped a package at your door because you were too into your phone.
Mm-hmm.
And then you put your phone back down, and in your mind, you justify it, thinking it's been 30 seconds, and it's actually been 10 minutes, and you multiply that out by a dozen times a day. And you're like, oh, I'm only on my phone like 10 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day. It's like, no, 10 minutes, like 12 times a day at 10 minutes, like that's 2 hours. You spend 2 hours of scrolling and you're telling people it's 10 minutes. And in those 2 hours, how many little moments did you miss with your kids or your spouse?
I'm gonna say one more thing before I move on because I want to touch on another topic here before we start running long here. But on the flip side of all this, with all of this being said, and your last point here, Coop, made me think of it. I know of athletes. I have athletes I coach myself that are homeschooled that are the definition of a high performer at their age. Because the environment they're in, the environment that their parents have created, is one of creativity, is one of hard work, and is one of dedication. One athlete, I could go to school for 8 hours, mom and dad, or I could be homeschooled for 2 and really focus on my sport. I'm not going to mention this athlete's name. They probably wouldn't care or their sport, but I'll leave it out for now. So he did this whole pitch to his parents. Like it was a 45-minute slide deck. It was awesome. And they went, yeah, because the dad stays home and helps him with the sport. And so he's there anyway. So now he finishes his school in the morning, does his strength and conditioning training, does his mental training, does his actual sports training, and everything else he needs to do so he can truly focus on that. Because he's a young athlete, but his sport, you need to hit that high performance level and exceed and be in the top 1% early if you want to really make a try at it. And he's there. But that is where his mindset is. And yes, dad is always there, but not like this. Dad is always there at an arm's distance. Mom is always there at an arm's distance, giving him that ability to do the things that he needs to do while still being a kid. And because of that, like I have sessions with this kid, and at 13, I'm like, what? This kid's mindset is so locked in. It seriously impresses the hell out of me every time I get to talk with him because he's dialed. Like if I were to take young athletes and go, what is a high performer at that age? Right there. And that is the difference. So there, like I said, at the start when you asked me that question, it is a tough question to answer because it's not a one size fits all. Nurture or nature, when it comes to nurture, it is so vastly different. Every household you go to has a different environment. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I could see that for sure. I love what you talked about with the kind of like being at arm's length versus being more or less a helicopter parent too, because there's so many parents that complain about parenting. It's like, well, first of all, if you were going to complain about being a parent your whole life, shouldn't that been something you thought about before you decided to have kids? Like maybe interview a couple parents. If you were going to a job and you were going to apply to a job, you would probably talk to someone who works there first to see if they like the environment. So maybe go talk to some parents and figure out what it's really like before you just decide, yeah, we're just going to bring a kid in the world and see how it goes. And the reason that you're complaining about parenting, and there's this talk on social media right now, but well, yeah, it's like a job. It's you'd have to hire this profession and this one and this one and this one to raise kids. It's like, first of all, you don't, because you stick 30 of them in a classroom and they all turn out all right. So no, it's not the equivalent of 30 different jobs for one. Parenting is a job in the first 6 months of having the kid, first year of having the kid, when they're 100% dependent on mom. That's when it's a job. when mom's up every 3 to 4 hours through the night to say, hey, we got to feed them, we got to do this, we got to do that, got to take care of. When your kid is 12, they're self-sufficient. Like that dad in that example, if that kid is going to do 2 hours worth of school and call it an hour of strength and conditioning, and let's say 30 minutes of eating after that, and 30 minutes of showering, getting ready, whatever, cleaning the room, like bare minimum, that's a 4 hour pocket of the day where the dad should not be involved at all. The kid should be completely self-sufficient. And in those 4 hours, then the kid's gonna go to bed earlier than the dad. So there's a couple hours there where the dad's got time away from the kid. There's at least 6 hours in the day, plus another 30 minutes the kid eating lunch, another 30 minutes the kid eating dinner. So now 7 hours in the day where that dad is kid free. Even if the dad was 100% a stay-at-home parent. So in that 7 hours, yeah, if the dad took 3 hours of that for personal time intermittently throughout the day to make sure that he's staying watered and fed, there's still 4 hours where that dad could be doing other work-related stuff and have like a part-time at-home gig. Being in some sort, could be a real estate agent, could be in finance, doing some sort of commission-based sales part-time, could be a content creator on social media, whatever. Like there's so much time in the day. But if that dad was a helicopter parent, had to be involved with everything, then they'd have 30 minutes a day of their me time, and 6 hours of that 7 freed up wouldn't be freed up because they'd be so on top of needing to be in everything. And like you said, Greg, it creates coddled kids that end up getting into life and I see this every day now when I'm coaching agents. Some people come into our business and it's like, they're asking me these questions. It's like, you're 40 years old. You can Google that. You can put it into ChatGPT and get the answer. I'm not Cooper GPT. I am Cooper coach you on how to build a business, but that was Googleable. But you don't know that because your parents coddled you. And now as a grown adult, you don't critically think about how to get the answers that you're looking for. And so you come to another grown adult to figure it out.
Yeah.
So the parents, they think they're doing I don't even think they think they're doing their kids a service. I think they're doing it because deep down, they actually do want to complain about how hard it is. And that doing that work justifies, well, if I'm so busy with parenting, I don't actually have to become a better version of myself and focus on other things and accomplish other things. But even the well-intended people, if you're a parent right now, it's like, hey, I'm not doing that as avoidance behavior. I'm doing that because I want the best for my kids. You're not going to get the best for your kids by doing that. You're costing your kids and you're costing your future self-development. So you want to have your cake and eat it too. And it's the exact opposite. You don't get the cake, you don't get to eat it. It's just a double whammy. Do not pass go. You're hurting yourself, you're hurting your kid. And the exact opposite, you could 180 it and actually do something that serves you and serves your kid at the same time. And fast forward 3, 4, 5, 6 years, your kid will respect you more for prioritizing yourself.
That was well said, my friend. And your point of complaining, it's easy. That's the easiest thing to do. Everybody can complain. One person complains, it's a group thing. Let's Complainers Anonymous. But oh wait, no, let's not be Complainers Anonymous. Complainers, this is my name. That's what Facebook's for. But on a more serious note, and all of this, people listening to this, what does this have to do with high performance? Everything. And Coop nailed it when you have a grown adult asking another grown adult how to do things. At the start of this conversation, I gave a definition of high performers: intention, mindset, dedication. Those are the things that are synonymous with all high performers. I missed one. And that is the ability to do something when you don't truly know how to do it, but you're going to figure it out anyway. That ability to adapt and overcome. Hey, we're going to do XYZ drill, or hey, we're going to do, you know what? I'm actually going to make it even dumber. Hey man, I need help building a deck. Can you come help me? Yep. Every high performer in the world will say, yep, we'll figure it out. And then we'll just figure it out. If you were never put in, as a child, environments that you had to figure a challenge out by yourself, your parents put you in a challenge that you had to figure it out, or you grew up without a real good family, so everything was a challenge, right? Whatever that environment was. But if you never grew up, if you just got, here's the solution, here you go, Oh, another problem. Here's the solution, honey. And it's just handed to you, everything. You're not going to be able to do that. When I was in sales, we used to have this joke in our sales meeting. If you can Google the question, don't ask it out loud. Now, yes, this is what coaches are here for. This is what leaders are here for, but quality questions. As a coach, I'll take every question any athlete asks me. But when they ask me a truly good question, I will make sure I let them know that that was a fantastic question because it was specific, it was relevant, it was like very relevant to them, and it was about the thing that we were just working on, not what are we doing tomorrow or at the end of practice, are we going to play a game? Valid question, because having fun is important. But when a student or an athlete asks me, or anybody, I will make sure I let them know that they asked a good question because that's a trait of a high performer. Now, just because you ask good questions doesn't make you a high performer, but it is one of the things because I know the kids that are asking those questions or asking, hey, how can I improve this area of my life? Because I believe that it is the weakest thing right now. That's a stellar question. Kids that ask those kind of questions, adults that ask those kind of questions, if they're not already, they will become high performers at some point. Maybe not, but they have a good chance. Because at some point in their life, they were subject to challenges and they weren't coddled and handheld the whole time.
I'll close on this. The quality of the questions that you ask yourself is going to dictate the quality of your life. Most people only ask questions after they've come to a conclusion on something. They formed an opinion already. This politician is the best. And then the questions they start asking, they go, well, why do people hate that person? And why is the other side so dumb? And why? And then all of their questions that they ask are just based on reigniting or whatever the word is. Basically, all their questions are based on supporting the opinion that they've just developed. The problem with the opinion that they've just developed is it is not at all based on, they haven't asked any questions about it. They created an opinion without any quality questions and then formed a bunch of quantity questions and low identity questions after forming the opinion. People will go, I don't know if I could do very well in that industry because I'm not good at whatever. I'm not good with people or not good with sales or not good with math or not good with whatever their objection is. So then they start asking, oh, well, would I be good at that? Would people say yes to me? Instead of going, where could I find some people who maybe that were introverted previously or not good at math or not good in sales? Where can I go to find some examples and some stories of people who had those things but then overcame them? How can I learn the lessons that they learned, but instead of taking me 10 years to learn those lessons, can I learn them in the next 10 days while I make a decision about whether this thing is for me or not? And you start asking questions ahead of time instead of forming an opinion. I do firmly believe that successful people make decisions quickly and are slow to change their mind, whereas not yet successful people make decisions slowly, but then change their mind very quickly. And they're constantly living in self-doubt and looking over the fence and chase the next best thing. At the same time, I'm not talking about making decisions. The difference between making decisions and forming opinions is so huge. You can make a decision to act on something without fully believing in it. Because fully believing in it is, yeah, you need data, but the only way you get data is by acting. So people are trying to do this whole chicken and egg thing, what comes first through life, not realizing that it's like, hey, so long as you're not going to hurt anybody, and so long as whatever you're doing is legal, moral, or ethical, you got to just go. You gotta do it. You gotta get experience. You gotta try things, and just ask good questions along the way. And at the end of it, it's not about being right. Like your opinion just doesn't. Your opinion's irrelevant. My opinion's irrelevant. Greg's opinion is irrelevant. It's not about right versus wrong. Life is just taking action and then collecting data on the action. There's nothing to do with right or wrong. And the point of a question isn't to get to the right answer. The point of a question is to get to an answer that's going to help you become more of a high performer. So I think that's all I got for today, but curious to hear some of your final thoughts, Greg.
Make sure from a young age, for the parents listening to this, you give and create an environment that supports creativity, that supports hard things, that supports challenges, that supports individuality and freedom. And then that way, you're giving your kids the greatest opportunity to succeed and grow. Whether they become a high performer or not, a bit of that is up to them. And maybe that's not their path. The high performance path is not one for everybody. It looks luxurious, it looks awesome, it looks fun. It's nasty. You have to sacrifice a lot. You have to take a lot of your time. You have to be dedicated. Sometimes you have to be obsessed. And the best high performers are obsessed. And you're going to lose a lot in that journey. You're going to win a lot too, and it's going to be fun. But if from a young age that environment isn't there, it becomes a lot harder to become that. It's not impossible, but it is extremely hard then because you're fighting an uphill battle the whole time. For people that are listening to this that feel they have the potential, they just haven't had their shot. Hope is not a strategy. You need to create your shot. You need to work hard. Even if you're thinking about switching jobs because you think you're going to excel somewhere else, do it. What's stopping you? People telling you it's a bad idea, it's safe because you're going to lose your salary for unsecured income because you're going to be an entrepreneur, or you're going to take a pursuit and try to make the Olympic team, cut an hour off of your marathon. Whatever it is, create your chance. Create your ability to become what you want to become, whether it's a high performer, whether it is the number one person in your job, whether it's a leader on your team. If you don't create chances for yourself and you don't subject yourself to hard things often, it's not the life for you. And that's okay. I'll go back to a quote from my friend Sean Taylor. There's a lot of ordinary people out there, and that is okay. Not everybody can be extraordinary. And in this case, not everybody can be a high performer. Being ordinary is fine. You can create a lot of impact and leave a great legacy as an ordinary person. But if you are an average and mediocre person, that's a different story. And we talked about that in a previous episode. But just because you're not a high performer, and if you're listening to this, you're not a failure. The high performance route is a very specific route in life, typically in the sports world, but you can be a high performer elsewhere. So take the path in life that is the correct one for you. And if you don't know what the correct one is for you, pave your own one and do hard things.
I like it. Right on.
Coop, I think you answered my question of what a high performer is.
We'll see you guys next week.
See you, Coop.